You're up whenever.
Oh. Hello there. Welcome back to the first of the worst podcast. I'm Brendan Murphy.
And I am Steve Arendis.
And Steve, we are about to begin what is possibly our most ambitious podcast to date, which means it was far and away the hardest to research for, which means I did less research than most times.
So many facts.
So many facts. Wars was a lot of research.
Yeah, well, I think we have a trend. And when we're talking about history, it means there's actual things that you can know.
Yeah, that's it. And we know those things about sports without having to look them up, so we like that. We don't generally know them about history.
Yeah, we should have brought a history teacher on just to make fun of us on this podcast.
Oh, that would be hilarious. I also was thinking, if someone fact checks what I say, I will probably make so many mistakes on this podcast.
It would be like the Republican debates.
Then we would say we're doing a podcast about history and just not talk about any of the questions.
To be fair, it'd be like any political debate.
Yeah, you're right.
To be fair, to not just shoot at one party, any political debate just full of lies.
No, this is actually far more like the Democratic debate because there's only 2 candidates here.
Feel 17. The burn. Feel the burn. This is the best hashtag for a candidate ever. All right. So what we're doing this week is we're going to talk about the best decades ever. Now,
in the history of the world.
Now, going into this, I was like, well, what's wrong with decades? And after making this list, every time I tried to rank a decade high, I was like, oh my God, something terrible.
Something horrible always happens. Okay, first of all, in any decade in American history, there's bad. It happened for sure. If it's a notable decade, bad things happened.
Every decade is just full of terrible.
Ashley is like, what about the 60s? And I was like, well,
Vietnam.
Everything that happened. It actually did make my list, and we'll get into it later.
Yeah,
but
everything on my list has bad. They're more bad than good. I think.
Well, okay, I did. Let's just get moving.
Let's just start it up.
Let's just start it up.
What's your number 10?
So here's the thing. Here's what I was about to say. This works perfectly into what we were saying. I would do things that were entire eras of history. I just kind of pick 10 years in there.
Yeah. Okay. So I focus more on a lot of mine are more recent, but
okay. So I have half and half. So basically, if you happen between 10,000 AD and 1700 AD, you don't exist. Columbus did not discover America, according to my list.
Well, he didn't actually discover America, but that's a whole.
Well, even the 1492 is not a factor. Is my point. Yeah, that's another debate. He just kind of showed up on someone's lawn and was like, I own this house now. And they're okay.
After somebody else had already
we want to share the house with you.
And after somebody who'd already showed up there 400 years before him, too, and was sharing it.
And they're like, yeah, we'll share the house. And then he burned the house down. I was like, I own all of you now. And they're like, that's not fair. And then Michael Mann's like, I'm going to make a movie called The Last of the Mohicans about this. Anyway. That's how exactly it went historically. So I did the 380s BC.
Okay, yours is going to be way different. Okay. So why do you put?
Because that's the era of the birth of classical thinking in ancient Athens.
Okay.
Art and literature, and the birth of democracy. And as Jimmy McNulty called it so candidly on the wire when Bunk said something to him, he's like, "Yeah, well, the Greeks invented democracy," and no, Bunk said it. Bunk goes, ass fucking too. So they contributed that.
Yeah, which, it's fine, except for when it involves little boys and little girls.
Oh, well, actually, that was part of the problem with the way they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were way ahead of Catholic Church on that.
And slavery, and tons of slavery.
Oh, yeah, but they, totally had it justified with their, caste system. They're like, no, you're born to be this. It's okay. People were like, all right, sounds good to me.
Or they beat you in a war, and then you'd be like, okay, now you're a slave.
Yeah. But try winning. These are not complicated problems.
You win, you're not a slave. They are.
You're fighting for your life. So that was my number 10. And I picked the 380s because that's when Socrates was most prominent. and he taught a bunch of philosophers, including Plato. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Mine are a lot more recent. In fact, all mine except for one are within the last 150 years. My number 10 is the 2000s because they're just terrible for the most part.
Okay, well, anyway, George Bush. I don't think anyone would call that a win.
Well, I think you start with 9/11.
God.
And then you
it's
go
not funny, I'm sorry.
And then you go into like 2 shitty wars, and then the economy tanks at the end of it. So it was really a big win all the way around.
And here's what's great is we were getting out of college and looking for jobs right in the middle of all of that, which made it extra awesome.
Well, to be fair, I don't know about you. No, we were looking for jobs like while it was still good though. We're at least me, like we're older than the kids who got like screwed.
Okay, so I was 06 and that was 08, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where we got screwed, we still got screwed on like promotions and things.
Yes.
We got our first job, but like we still are like set back financially because like there weren't promotions, there weren't like merit races and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would still say our generation kind of gets screwed, but you're right, not like someone who graduated in like 08 or 09.
Yeah, got hosed and just like didn't, and then just like fake protested for.
Yeah, I'm getting a nod from an 08 college graduate right now. Pardon me, 2011 college graduate.
Oh, that's like almost good times though.
Yeah, you don't have any vote here, and we don't usually do an audience of the podcast, just so you know.
Are the 2011? That's like, man, you just like that's just like coasting into the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Except then you're competing against all the people who graduated 3 years before, so don't have jobs for your first job. So I guess that's negative.
I mean, Bush wasn't president anymore. Like that's like a big win.
Yeah.
I will say the first time I ever voted was it would have been 2004. It would have been my first election. I was so excited to go vote against George Bush. And then I was so sad when he won again. And the next night I went to a Beastie Boys concert and it was the most depressing thing that ever happened. They were like beyond reproach. They're like, we're just going to play Acoustic Sabotage now.
That was not the one he won with less popular vote.
No, that was 2000. He actually just really won in 2004.
Yeah.
I mean, which is crazy.
I mean,
I'm really excited. How retro is this Bush Clinton election going to be, though?
We'll talk about that more later.
Okay. Oh, we got that coming up.
There's another decade that's going to involve that. So then my number 9 is the 80s, the 1980s. Here's what was wrong with the 80s. 80s in retrospect are just super cheesy. It's super cheesy and or super douchey is how I view the 80s.
I mean, it's like the 80s are great, and I just got done watching Wet Hot American Summer, the TV show. The 80s are great for like any sort of like period piece comedy because they were so ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they just I don't know like what actually happened in the 80s, like
AIDS, Reagan, Dare. Those are not good things.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the Cold War ended and the Berlin Wall fell. I'm trying to find good stuff in there.
And it was the best era of basketball ever, arguably, if we're going to look at sports.
Yeah, probably, right? Well,
I mean, it made the NBA awesome.
Until like now.
Yeah, until present day when it's amazing. But
yeah.
I mean, it made the NBA became awesome in the 80s.
Yeah.
And kind of the NFL too.
It made the NBA.
If we're going to look at sports.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, you're right.
The Bears won a Super Bowl. I mean, that's cool to us.
It doesn't really count, though, for me. I don't count that.
Oh, I definitely don't count it. If you don't count it, there's no way I can count it.
I mean, I was alive, but like...
I was 1.5.
I didn't care. I didn't care when the Bears won the Super Bowl in 1985. All right, man. What's your number 9?
My number 9 is actually the 60s.
Okay, my 8's the 60s, so we can just talk about it.
Okay, so here's what I think about the 60s. I think in the end, civil rights, pretty solid.
Yeah, but like every person got murdered.
All the people that wanted it to happen died. That's like a loss. And the fact that basically we had a civil rights movement and it's still like totally fucked.
Yeah, it's
not great.
Didn't totally stick.
But if you look at it from like a cultural perspective, some pretty good music and like literature and art.
Yeah,
which is a big theme in what I'm picking, I guess.
Yeah, you seem to care a lot more about that stuff.
Well, I mean, I love rock and roll music. That's the best decade of rock and roll ever.
I guess, yeah, maybe.
I mean, so there's that. But yeah, the Kennedys getting killed wasn't great.
Yeah, Martin Luther King.
Yeah, that's a triumphant of pretty terrible things.
That was the 60s, right? He got killed in the 60s, right?
Yeah. April 4th.
Yeah.
I know it because it's a day that the NBA plays day games to honor him and not to make money.
Well, Martin Luther King Day is in February, but I don't know.
It is in February. You're right. I really know because it's a U2 song. That's why.
But it's Martin Luther King Day. I don't know if it's his birthday or if it's based on around his birthday or the day he was killed. I think it's based more around his birthday, like the holiday, right?
Honestly, they probably would have done either. They're like, where do we just need a holiday more?
Yeah, it's something like that.
It's better. February is a better time to have a holiday.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what was funny is that was a political issue, like whether or not Martin Luther King Day was going to be a holiday. Like all the Republicans were like, "No way, this is ridiculous."
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like John McCain had to go to Memphis when he was running for president and be like, "By the way, my bad that only like 15 years ago I said that this guy wasn't that great." And then people were like, "Okay, you're forgiven." Sorry, I'm getting very political today, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to have to block you from my Facebook feed in the middle.
Yeah, I'm like my mom on Facebook. She was so excited for the Republican debates, and she's a Democrat, which I guess a lot of people were excited for.
To be fair, any like card-carrying Democrat was more excited for the Republican debates than any other person. The only people who like really cared about it were people who wanted to like make fun of it.
I mean, because the election is 18 months away, maybe.
Yeah, it's like round one.
That's
I like
insane.
that there was so many of them. They had to have like a JV debate beforehand.
With the guy who finished second place last time in the JV debate.
Who was in it? Who was it? Santorum?
Perry.
Like, but I guess that woman like did the best. She's gonna get promoted, I heard, to the bigger debate if she sticks it out. Carly Fiorina. She
was the CE of Hewlett Packard when it went under.
Yeah, great.
Sounds like a winner to me.
The history of businessman presidents is not a pretty history.
Oh, that team loves that idea. Like, I successfully ran a porta potty business, then I could run the federal government. It's the same exact thing. The same philosophies apply to both.
It didn't work for Jimmy Carter either.
No, he was on my team.
I'm saying it doesn't work. It doesn't work anyway. Like it doesn't.
You got a better chance of being successful president if you're an actor. Historically.
Yeah.
Which just shows you how hard the job is.
And you're like a figurehead. All right. What's your number 8? My 8 was in the 1960s, so we'll gloss over that when you get back to me.
I did the 20s, Roaring 20s.
Oh, low. I think it should be ranked higher than this.
Okay, well, here's why I'm
Well, I know the argument against them, but
prohibition, but like sounds like it wasn't that big a deal. Like prohibition was enforced like I don't know, marijuana laws are enforced in California right now. Like they were there, but not really.
Yeah, I feel and it like made it more fun.
Yeah, and no war, which at that point in our country's history didn't happen that much.
Still doesn't.
You're right. And the Harlem Renaissance.
See, we found that was the way you could throw in something even during the terribly racist times. That something good.
Yeah, I mean, it was not. It was the first time that I think that anyone who wasn't like a white voice was able to be heard in America.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, 1920 is solid. I'd like to. I can't wait to hear all these decades you have before the 1920s.
I got some gems on here.
All right. So then we'll go over to me. My 8 was the 60s. We just talked about that, so I'm not going to dive in there anymore. So my 8 and 7 were 60s and 70s, and I decided the 70s had to be better than the 60s because here's just me being an idiot. They're not that different, except Vietnam ended in the 70s.
I mean, yeah, Nixon.
What did that really hurt?
America's global credibility, which, I mean, I don't even know if we have that anymore anyway.
We were still number one when Nixon left.
With Gerald Ford falling down the stairs of Air Force One. I think he did that twice.
No, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Dude, in the era of cable news, if the president fell down the stairs now, it would never
going to
stop
happen
being
at
on
some
TV.
point. It's going. Oh, not even cable news. Like the era of like the internet. Could you
And
imagine?
also-
Do you imagine like what your Facebook feed would look like for the rest of eternity if Obama fell down the stairs?
Oh, it has to be a Republican. It would just make me so sad if it was one of us. Another political commentary from me. Just I hear they got an opening over at Comedy Central right now. So
I'm not one of you. I'm not one of anybody.
Obama is way too cool to fall down the stairs. It's so much more of a W move.
Oh yeah. Hillary could fall down the stairs.
Hillary could fall down the stairs.
Look at Bernie Sanders.
Oh, he probably like never recover.
You know
Bernie Sanders.
who would never fall down the stairs though is Rand Paul.
No, he's worked too hard. He built the stairs himself.
The fact that that dude is named after Ayn Rand is amazing. And now running for president.
Yeah, he was like a Tea Party candidate like 4 years ago.
No, it was his dad, wasn't it? Ron Paul.
Oh, no, Ron Paul, but he was like a Tea Party candidate for Senate who like beat some like established person. And now he's running for president. That actually does kind of sound like Obama to some degree if you think about it. Like a out of nowhere kind of guy.
Yeah.
But Obama didn't have to compete with Donald Trump.
The Donald.
Did you see his Twitter feed after the debate?
No.
Just like ripping on Megyn Kelly, ripping on the panelists.
I love Megyn Kelly. I'm team Megyn Kelly forever.
She's not incredibly smart.
I've heard things to the contrary. Also, somebody that you know that I work with, who is a married man to another man, is married because of Megyn Kelly.
What? Really?
Yeah,
that's what set them up?
He used to work at Fox News for back in the day when a lot of those people who are on now were like up and comers. He sat next to Megyn Kelly, and he went on a date with his now husband. And after one date, he wasn't into it, and he told Megyn Kelly all about the date, and she insisted that he call and go on a second date because she felt like something was there.
That's crazy. Okay. I will retract my Megyn Kelly statement. She is Cupid reincarnated.
And totally cool with gay marriage. Well, at least of gay couples. I don't know about gay marriage, but
I mean, like if you're under 40, you're cool with gay marriage.
Yeah,
right?
even a lot of the Republicans are too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just they just don't care. A lot of them like they don't care, or like they don't care under the guise of the government shouldn't meddle with that. That's like the Rand Paul not caring.
Hey, however you want to rationalize it, just as long as you don't care.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I guess somehow in the middle of this, I was just saying I don't know the difference between the 60s and 70s, and Vietnam ended in the 70s, so I think it's better than the 60s.
The 70s, I just always think of Boogie Nights. For some reason. I realize that's a very, very specific subculture.
I mean, the 1970s were a giant California porn industry.
And an orgy with a lot of blow. That actually sounds great.
There probably were a lot of orgies with a lot of blow in the 70s.
And then the 80s came around and ruined it. The orgy game has never recovered from the 80s.
Well, yeah, they just figured out also that cocaine is terrible for you. Because there was like that period in the 70s where people didn't think cocaine was bad for you. I love when people like come up, oh, this drug, it's fine. You lose weight.
Your body doesn't function normally. You bleed a lot. Can't be.
You never sleep. You don't sleep.
Never sleep. What could be wrong?
Nothing.
You don't sleep.
Your heart beats real fast.
Hydrate yourself.
Your heart beats real fast. I don't know what could be wrong with it. All right, what's your number 7?
I'm going to with my like pretty ancient history theme. I went with the age of the 1620s, the heart of the Age of Enlightenment, which brought us a lot of the dawn of logic and reason. Voltaire and Locke. Also, one of my favorite lines from Swingers is when he goes, "Oh, the pancakes of the Age of Enlightenment."
Settle down, Voltaire, right?
And then she comes back and goes, "Settle down." He makes a whole big deal about how he made that terrible joke to a waitress, and then she walks back and goes, "Settle down, Voltaire."
Speaking of swingers, I was watching Edge of Tomorrow today, which I love, but right after it, Wedding Crashers came on HBO, and I was like, Wedding Crashers is the sequel to Swingers, not that second movie, because Vince Vaughn character is just Vince Vaughn's character from Swingers, like 15 years later.
I mean, you could say it on Old School too.
A little bit, but he's got more of that fast talk going on in Wedding Crashers and Swingers, and like, you know what I mean, like that. Like he does a lot more of that, like slick talking.
I mean, I think comedy sequels are the devil, but if they made a sequel to Swingers, I would watch the shit out of it and be in the theater.
Well, they kind of did, though. Remember?
And when they made Made,
it wasn't good. A sequel to Swingers would be so weird now, though.
Oh no, it'd be like their divorced producer dads.
Yeah, that like era, the Swingers is like happened for like 8 months.
Like I mean, it's one of my 10. I might say 5. It's one of my 10 favorite movies of all time. I love that movie with such an incredible.
I haven't seen it. I like it a lot.
I watch it 2 or 3 times a year, and you know that I always get sad when I read the oral history of Swingers, and he wrote that movie in 10 days. He's like, it's really easy to write a movie. You just write 10 pages a day for 10 days. And I was like, I could have written thousands of movies at this point in my life.
I agree with that. I feel like you could writing a movie's not that hard. It's just writing a good movie.
So this was a miracle then.
I think maybe like somebody like that, you just crank them out. You just keep cranking them out until one of them like, oh wait, this actually doesn't suck.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw Chef. It's like he wrote that and directed that. It's actually a really good movie.
I haven't seen it.
It's got like a good amount of sentiment into it.
Hook up with Sofia Vergara or something.
That's the only thing that I can't buy about it. It's like he's like this middling chef who was like once a great chef, but is married to the most attractive woman on earth. That was the only thing where I was like,
she's married to Al Bundy on a TV show. Like,
you're right. If you're just like doughy and white, you got to chat with Sofia Vergara. In fact, I'm heading out to Hollywood right now.
Except she's actually dating the guy from Magic Mike. Except that's who she's with in real life. Except not in the movies. There's the difference. All right. So what's your number? So we got your number 6? Yeah, I think we're on your number 6.
Yeah, the 1810s.
Okay.
The heart of the Industrial Revolution. Plus, America gets a war win, second win against Britain. The War of 1812.
Wait, well, didn't our war podcast, did we cover that this one wasn't necessarily a win?
Oh, did we?
And the White House burned down? I think this
I was just looking for it.
Is it the war?
I was just looking for it.
The one that Canada claims they won?
Is that the French-Indian War?
I don't know. I remember there being one that Canada claims a victory over us in. Which I think is amazing. The only thing they could claim victory over us in is hockey.
And they do it a lot.
And driving, and hockey players driving drunk.
Oh God, I don't want to talk about hockey players this week.
Come on. It's the best time for us ever to talk about hockey players.
I'm so sick of the hockey fan being like, yeah, these are good guys.
Oh, I've called Patrick Kane a thug like 18 times this week.
He's a terrible person, and he was before this week.
Oh, yeah, he's always been terrible. Just call him a thug, though. It feels so good to call a white man a thug.
He tried to fight a friend of the show in real life. A friend of the show would have whooped Patrick Kane's ass. He was a college athlete who's like twice as big as Patrick Kane.
Yeah, Patrick Kane's a mini person.
Yes. He's like Tom Cruise of hockey.
Except rapier.
Yeah, that we know of. We have no idea what Scientology's got Tom Cruise into.
Yeah, we don't actually. Probably some.
You watched the Scientology documentary?
That one on HBO a while ago? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was amazing.
How crazy was that they like picked out Tom Cruise's wife for him? And then
I think we kind of already knew that though, right?
But not the Katie Holmes one. This is like some random Scientology girl.
Oh, like early on.
Early on. And then they're like, okay, you got to go away. And they like brainwashed her into thinking it never happened.
Yeah, Scientology is crazy, man.
Yeah.
I assume they'll pick this up now that we've talked about this.
That's
I'm gonna tag Scientology in this, and on the metadata of this podcast. All right. So my number 6.
If there's a camera crew outside of your house on Monday, we'll know why.
Yeah, well, I don't live that far from that Scientology, that like Hubbard Dianetics place in Lincoln.
Also, the War of 1812 did bring us a Star Spangled Banner.
Oh yeah, that's true. So it gave us the worst national anthem any country has.
I don't know how you can make that argument when you understand none of the other languages that the anthems are in. You could say Canada's is better, basically what you could say.
You're right. I can't really say that. I can say it of the ones I understand. It's the worst.
What do you think the North Korean national anthem is? Probably not great.
I bet he commissioned something awesome.
It's John Tesh.
I bet he commissioned something awesome. All right. So my 6 and 5 kind of go together. This is like my 70s and 60s one, where I don't really get so it's the 1940s at 6 and the 1950s at 5. These eras are kind of the same to me. 1940s are lower because we dropped a nuclear bomb on Japan, or 2 of them. But we killed a bunch of Nazis, which is a plus. So that like cancels out in my book.
And I mean, not to be against humanity, but dropping those bombs totally made us the fucking baller of the world. Like, you couldn't fuck with us. Like, that was when America won the world.
Yeah, and if like we didn't do that, somebody else would have. Mainly the Germans.
I mean, we had them first, is why we did it, I think.
Yeah.
That's the way I understand it.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't think we also
could have probably just dropped them on like an island that had like 12 residents, though, and proving your point.
No, they did though. They dropped test ones. There was one like the first 2 dropped, I don't think.
So you're saying that like we have the power and we're willing to use it was like what had to happen.
Yeah, and I don't think they necessarily knew about like Fallout and things like all of the weird after effects of dropping them. I could be wrong about that.
Well, there's no way they could have known.
Yeah. Either way, it's terrible that they did that. That's why I put the 50s above the 40s. But it's the spawn of the Greatest Generation, and everybody dressing in snappy suits and hats like in Mad Men.
That's more 50s, though.
Yeah, that's why the 50s are above the 40s.
Oh, the 50s. Also, the dawn of rock and roll.
Yeah.
Elvis is the 50s.
Yeah. Do you care about any 50s music?
Buddy Holly and Elvis made music that became, I mean, like the Rolling Stones kind of were around because of those guys.
Well, those guys were around because of some black people they stole the music from.
Well, America's around because Columbus stole the land from the Indians. If we really trace it all back.
Who fought off the Vikings, but there was a big plague before Columbus came. Oh, it would have been good.
I'm drinking during the podcast this week.
Who's your number 5?
The 6000s BC, which is the end of the Stone Age. Also, I learned this. BC, because scientists are not huge on Bible things, is now
anymore.
BCE, before Christ era. So, like, maybe he was around, maybe he wasn't.
No, it's before current era.
Before current era?
Yeah, they took the Christ out of it.
They took Christ out?
Yeah.
But it's proven that guy existed.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's coming later in my list. Because you know I'm such a Bible person. But, I mean, tools, fire, the wheel.
Yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's a
procreation.
It's a good call.
Yeah, it started in Africa, by the way.
Yeah, Mesopotamia, Africa over there, right?
Yeah. Where Obama's from, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Kenya.
He's a secret spy from.
Kenya. Why don't more people talk about how Ted Cruz was born in Vancouver?
I don't know.
He was born to American citizens, though, so he was born an American citizen.
There has to be politicians who are
Donald Trump has brought it up. Trump
has
brought it up. Ted Cruz was not born in America.
Wait, is Cruz running?
Yeah, he was in the debate.
I actually didn't watch the debate. I only saw the highlights.
Yeah, my wife, because she knows who every Cuban person in the world is, two Cubans are in the debate.
Rubio and Cruz.
Yeah, Rubio and Cruz. They're all Republican, except for my wife and her mom.
Well, yeah, that's because they were the ones that Castro drove out. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Castro drove out like the established wealthy class.
He drove out everybody who wanted
At first, he drove out those people, though, right?
Yeah.
And then over time, turned out he was just horrible.
Unless you were just like on his side, right? Like if you weren't on his side. So yeah, they all left and they all hate. They just hate anything that's close to socialism, right?
Well, I mean, it really didn't work in Cuba. So
that's why so many Cubans are Republican. Yeah, that's why so many Cubans are Republican.
They had like no cars after 1960. No, like 1991.
They drive like Volkswagen Bugs around, like the old ones.
Yeah, yeah, not the new ones with the soft tops that come down.
No, yeah, that's what they drive.
Make hell of a cigar, though.
So wait, where are we right now?
I do 4 now, I think.
Oh no, I do 4 before you, I think. Oh no, you did 5, then you do 4. Yeah. You do 4.
See, now I'm wishing I would have done more like current decades where I could like pinpoint facts.
We're changing.
But I'm doing a decade 13.8 billion years ago in this very galaxy where the universe was formed as my number 4. The Big Bang Theory. But there's not an actual time. It's so long ago that there's not an actual decade in which they could place it.
I thought the universe was like 4 million years old.
The Big Bang Theory was
6,000 years. I mean 6,000 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's Earth. The universe is like 6,010 years old.
Yeah, we just need to get Neil deGrasse Tyson on here to explain this all to us.
God, I would love to do our potential podcast on scientific theory with him as our guest. You think he's busy?
Yeah, he's available, I think.
I take Bill Nye as a number 2 as a backup.
We can get them both, maybe. All right. My number 4, I assume you have this one pretty high. It's the 1770s.
Yeah, I got it too, but we could go into it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's when America became to be America.
Yeah, I was really hoping that was around the same time that Ben Franklin discovered electricity.
It was before that. He got that before.
1752.
Right? Yeah. Oh, that would have been.
He was actually really old when that was all going down.
Yeah, he like died not soon after that, right? Like in Paris.
Yeah, he was like a kind of a pervert too. I mean, I guess he was just like all rich white men are and loved young women.
Well, the ones that don't
just
love
like
boys. So you're saying he would? So you're saying Ben Franklin, if he were alive in the world of True Detective, would have been at that party?
Yeah, he would have been at the True Detective sex party.
He would have been at the party. Okay, that's good to know. But yeah, 1770s, USA.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever. People, you can have your problems with America, but we stopped. That was like the end of the British Empire, which is probably a good thing in the end that we started whittling away at that.
Yeah, I mean, kings are never a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, no, you don't want.
You should have to have qualifications besides being born to be in charge. Like, but it's a pretty solid.
Like, it's almost a better qualification to be a dictator because like you had to take over at least.
Yeah, you're a leader of some people.
Like, you might be like an asshole, but like at least you clearly like have some skill set in like leading.
It's usually military.
Yeah, it's usually military. So then my number 3 is one we've already talked about, which is the 1920s. I mean, yeah. That's what. If we didn't have the 1920s, that's what people say. Well, while we played cops and robbers when we were little kids, you get produced so many good gangster movies in my lifetime because of that.
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? Possibly the best Coen Brothers movie.
Amazing movie. I love that movie. Yeah. It might be my dad's favorite movie. I think it's my dad's favorite movie.
It's one of mine, too. It's a great movie. What a great soundtrack, too.
Yeah, it's really good.
Of like music that I would never listen to.
Outside of like that movie. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
How is that movie? I mean, probably because the Coen Brothers would flip, but that seems like ripe for being a Broadway musical to me.
Yeah. There's all kind. I always see things. I always have so many ideas for like musicals. Like I really want to make a Roadhouse musical, where it's like a comedic musical, and I think it would be amazing.
I heard a great joke the other day where a comedian was like, "Yeah, went on a date with this girl, and I'm not very good at dancing." And she said she wanted to do the move from the Patrick Swayze movie, so she ran up to me and I gave her a roundhouse kick to the face. I didn't know which movie she was talking about. I forget that guy's name. I would give credit if I did. It wasn't me.
That's a solid. I knew it was going because I already knew it.
No, when you see a stand-up doing that joke, you're like, well, I know where this is going, but it's still funny. As soon as it starts, it's the kind of joke that as soon as he starts it, you start laughing.
Because you know where it's going, and it's going to be funny.
So I'm up with number 3, and we actually already talked about this. The only thing you really neglected to mention about the 1980s is it's the decade in which we were born.
Oh, yeah. Totally forgot that.
So First of the Worst does not exist without the 1980s.
Oh, also in retrospect, I was supposed to mention this to prevent myself from getting killed by my wife. In number 10, the best part of the 2000s is that I met my wife. It's the only.
Oh, yes, you should have. You're welcome.
I hope she made it this far in the podcast before turning it off and getting mad because I didn't mention that.
Maybe our analysis of Cuban politics was a turnoff and she didn't get past it. Which, since I know nothing about it, was probably a fair assessment on her part. I might have just cost us like a solid 12 of our 26 listeners with that whole situation. I saw The Godfather. I know what Cuba's about.
Scarface.
Yeah, Scarface and The Godfather. That's all you need to know. You haven't seen The Godfather 2. Cuba is a big part of that movie.
I've never seen The Godfather. I didn't know Cuba had anything to do with it.
A big part of that movie is the Cuban Revolution.
Yeah, and yes, it's true. I've never seen any Godfather movie. I might just start with 3. Work my way back.
I think that'd be hilarious. You'd be like, this movie is the worst piece of shit I've ever seen. I'm not watching the other ones.
Here's the thing. Do you think I would think it was the worst movie ever if I watched it first?
No, I mean, also because it's like so unrelated. At like the very beginning of the movie, they like write off 3 characters immediately. They're like, oh yeah, this is Tom Higgins' son. Tom Higgins is dead. That's Robert Duvall's character.
Is it like a time jump?
Oh yeah, I mean the movie came out in like 90.
No, I mean like in the movie there's like a time jump too.
Oh yeah, it would have to be because the movie came out so late.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
It was not originally written to be the 3rd one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Sofia Coppola's in the movie as like a 20-year-old daughter to Al Pacino.
When she should be behind the camera and not in front of it.
Hey, maybe she wrote it. It would have been better than the piece of shit it turned out to be.
Very possible. All right, are we on your number 2?
We did the 1770s. So my list is I'm at 1. I don't know where you're at here.
So then I'm on number 2, and it's my number 2 is the 1990s. I'm all about it. I know we might get some backlash on that. I don't know if I will or not.
You know, in researching this, I did see a lot of articles that came up like the 1990s, the 90s, the last great decade.
Here's what the 1990s. The U.S. got rich. We went from being in debt to having a surplus, which we've like squandered, but that's
Clinton.
Clinton. We had like a war, but it wasn't like a real war. So like,
definitely not a real war.
So compared to other decades, we're not as bad off in the War Department, right? From my personal opinion, sports wise, personally, it's my best. It's the Six Bulls. It's the whole Michael Jordan era, basically. I get as a sports fan. I also, this is probably an unpopular opinion. If I can only listen to music from one decade for the rest of my life, it would be the 1990s. And that's probably something that people don't agree with. But
that's a hard question. I don't know what I'd pick. Like, I feel like I'd want the music I grew to love as an adult from like while it was in current. So like, I'd probably say the 2000s, but that sounds ridiculous. Because I don't think
2000s is like the worst decade for music.
But like the bands I love the most are from the 2000s. But that's where I am in my life right now, you know? Like, yeah, I wanted them to be good. I want a band to be in its apex when I can like enjoy it. So like the 60s, yeah, the Stones are great.
Like who's your favorite band? You love like Pearl Jam, right?
Pearl Jam and Wilco are probably my favorite bands. Yeah, I mean, so like, yeah, they could fall in either of those. Like Pearl Jam was at its best in the 90s. Wilco was at its best in the 2000s.
But they both cross over the two, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of your favorite music, are you excited about Ryan Adams covering the entire Taylor Swift album?
This is hard for me, as you know, because he's like
one of my absolute favorites. And I was talking to Ashley this morning, and she goes, "Who are like your 5 least favorite bands?" And I was like, Aerosmith, Metallica, for sure. Even though I actually kind of was at a Metallica concert a week ago, which was a nightmare.
It was terrible. I don't hate Metallica.
Also, they ruined Napster, which was great.
Yeah, that's. And
then I had to think for a really long time. You know how I don't like the Foo Fighters, but I don't think they're like the worst band ever. I just think that they're super overrated.
They are super overrated.
And I hate Dave Grohl. And I heard a DJ finally make this comment. He's like, big year of news for Dave Grohl. If you asked him a question, he answered it, and it was in the newspaper. Which is pretty much what happens to Dave Grohl now. But and I was like, and I was like, oh yeah, Taylor Swift for sure.
And now your guy is covering her.
And now Ryan Adams is covering that.
The whole album.
I mean, I'll listen to it.
It'll be fun.
Yeah,
is he gonna rap the Kendrick Lamar verse from Bad Blood, or is he gonna bring in somebody for that? Or just skip it?
Maybe he'll bring in Kendrick Lamar. He's a big collaborator.
He's done a lot of weird cover type things though in the past, right?
Oh yeah, right.
This is like part of his thing, right? Like this is part of his thing.
His thing is he does like 3 albums a year.
Yeah,
he's always recording music.
Yeah.
The sad thing is he'll probably make more money off this album than he has off like his good records.
Oh, probably.
Except all the royalties he's gonna owe Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. Maybe he won't release it for money.
Is that how?
I don't know. I always think of it this way: like, what if, like, a rapper makes like a mixtape, right?
Yeah.
And because they don't license like the music on it, they can release it, but they can't charge money for it. So maybe he does something like that. It just like uses it like a promotional tool or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he would do that. I honestly think he doesn't care about money. I mean, he's got certainly enough of it.
Yeah, I wonder. It could be something like that.
Ryan Adams was never going to be on MTV Cribs.
It would be so depressing.
He actually is a pinball machine collector, so it would be kind of funny. It's his favorite thing in the world. He was on the cover of Pinball Monthly this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That means I know. That means I know 2 people. I know of 2 people who've been on the cover of Pinball Monthly.
Who's the other one?
Well, actually, I just assume he has been. One of our good friend of the show, Carly's coworkers, was at one point the #1 pinball player in the world, and I've met him a couple times.
He scheduled
him and his brother, dad, worked at Konami or one of those Konami or something, and made pinball machines growing up. So they're just very good at pinball because of that.
Well, in another era, that was that was just video games. Pinball was essentially what video games are. You know? My uncles loved the shit out of pinball because they didn't have.
Yeah, for sure.
Pac-Man.
Carly will correct me if he was never the #1 player, but I think he was at one point.
XRT tried to do a live broadcast with Ryan Adams, and they were like, I shouldn't even probably be saying this. And they're like, well, he's in town for the pinball convention at the Lincolnshire Marriott. Can you come to the Lincolnshire Marriott for the XRT broadcast? Isn't he in town for the concerts he's doing at the Chicago Theater?
Nope. That's just a side thing.
On stage. That's part of the set.
So wait, what? So you said 2000s would be the decade you would take music from?
I guess. I don't know. That sounds like such weak sauce.
I mean, I'm not sounding cool. I don't think by taking the 90s.
Yeah, I'd have to think about it a little more.
I don't know what the cool answer is. I don't think there is a.
I think the 60s, right? I mean, for rock and roll, dude. If you're a hip hop fan, you could totally make a good case in the 90s.
I am a hip hop fan, and I've already said that's my favorite era of rock and roll too.
And I don't think it's a bad answer. That's the best era of hip hop since it essentially started in the early 80s.
Yeah, so when it starts to actually develop a little bit.
So then isn't Run DMC a Buddy Holly almost kind of?
Yeah. And then you get all that stuff, yeah.
No one thinks Buddy Holly's that great. I just think that he made something that became really good.
Yeah. Yeah, you get Grandmaster Flash is some dude.
When I was a kid, I loved that song.
The Message?
It's a juggle sometimes. It makes you wonder why we keep them going on.
Yeah.
It's been sampled by 10
Everybody ever.
We did not really talk much about the actual content of this podcast this week, but it's been a fun one. We talked a lot about politics.
So then my number one while we're here is the current decade.
Because you want to live today. Okay, all right. We talked about this. I think I know where you're going with this.
It's the best decade for like less people get murdered. Like it's like the best decade for like it's still nothing is perfect obviously, but like for like humanity and stuff, it's the best decade.
Yeah. So like every mankind has gotten a little less bad every year.
Yeah.
So then this year is the best year ever. By that logic.
Though people don't think that because like all like 24 hours of news stations like report stuff all the time that like,
oh yeah, well there's still a ton of fucked up shit.
Yeah, tons of terrible shit happens, but like technically, statistically, this is like the best time to be alive.
I like that. I mean, like gay marriage, like yeah, like generally there's been social progress while there's still like terrible things, like the cops aren't very nice, for instance.
Oh my! But like if you go back to the 90s here, the 90s, you won't agree with this, I don't think, and certainly anybody younger than me won't agree with this because there was like a little time when I was in college, right? So like my freshman and sophomore year where not everybody had cell phones. Like cell phones weren't really ubiquitous and it was awesome.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
Cell phones ruined everything. But like you can't go back now. But like cell phones ruined like it was awesome. Like when you would go out like on like a Friday and Saturday or whatever, Tuesday because it was college. Like you would like call people and you'd be like, I'll meet you here. And you go out and maybe you see them, maybe you don't. But it was like awesome when you like bumped into people at parties. Cause like
it was exciting.
It was exciting. It was awesome. And like you could avoid people. You could avoid,
you know what you did?
You could avoid specific people for specific nights if you wanted to.
That's why the away message was the thing on AIM.
But if you got caught, it was a big deal because it was like a total accident or took a lot of like nefarious planning. It was awesome.
But no, I mean, you remember AIM.
Yeah, I never was into AIM, man. But like, yes, it was like I was in the era of AIM, but I was never in.
That was like a status update before a status update.
It was the original
status
update.
It was called an away message because like you were just supposed to be like, this is where I am.
And it was just like people
if you're looking for me, you could come find me here.
Yeah, I feel like it was riddled with people leaving like emo band quotes.
Oh yeah, I would always put Sopranos quotes on mine because I understand the way they live.
It was like emo bands. It was like, what's your hot Taking Back Sunday quote you're gonna put up? All right, but so I didn't really.
My number one is the 30s AD, and that was the decade when Christ was killed and rose again.
Yeah, because like how many decades involve somebody rising from the dead?
That's the only one I know of. A good book. I don't know. I mean, like rooted in truth, mostly lies. Inspiration for many movies, songs, and tattoos. What more do you want?
Number one inspiration for tattoos
and jewelry.
Oh yeah, and jewelry for sure. Right.
Yeah.
Big decade.
Yeah.
I mean,
Spawn's the most popular philosophical belief, even though I don't agree that it's true, ever.
I mean, it's the number one decade for human revival.
By a lot. Actually, by one, but one is still a lot.
Well, by infinity percentage, like
yeah, you're right.
As far as I know, unless there were some other ones we don't know about, in which case we get some book writers out there.
Those people did not do as good a job marketing their story.
No, not at all. No, that's a good answer though. I thought about throwing JC in there somewhere.
I mean, also there was a party he went to where he turned all the water into wine. Has there ever been a party better than that?
So think of how good of a party guest that is.
Yeah.
Number one party guest, Jesus. Think about what he can do. Water into wine. Check. You don't have enough food? He can just kind of make it last for everybody, right?
Yeah.
3, he can walk on water. That's a pretty dope party trick.
Also, really interesting to talk about. Really interesting to talk to. Like a lot of crazy ideas.
Also, was down with a bunch of hookers, so that's bringing stuff to the party.
And got drunk all the time. I mean, like, besides all the things that spawned his existence. Also, I thought
also, to be fair, we've seen pictures of him. Dude definitely smoked weed.
If it was around then, I've been saying this for years as a philosopher of Jesus Christ. He was definitely getting high, if it was possible. I'm not entirely sure.
Super chill.
He was a radical.
He was like the chillest bro of all time. Always wore sandals.
He rolled 12 deep.
Rolled 12 deep. Just like
knew some hookers. Had no respect for his dad. Major daddy issues. Was like, you're not even my father, Joe. Get the fuck out of here.
Just chilling all the time, man.
Also, girls are into it. Had a beard and was a carpenter.
Yeah.
Girls today would want to bang that guy.
You tell me you wouldn't want to roll in his crew? He's the original guy from Entourage.
I mean, he even has like racial ambiguity. You ask someone, they'll say he was white. You ask someone else, they'll say he was brown. Someone will say he was black. No one even knows. He's like post-racial.
He is post-racial.
He's post-racial.
Like maybe pre-racial. At that
pre-racial might actually be better. But you could ask 5 people what race Jesus is. You get 5 different answers.
Also, by the way, there's no way he wasn't just like Middle Eastern, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone agrees that.
Like he's just like
there's like a 5,000-page book called Zealots by something like some guy I saw on the Daily Show, like Rusuf Islam.
Yeah,
I totally butchered this guy's name, and it sounds bad. But basically, he was just like a political radical who like pissed off the government, and that's why he got killed.
He's just like a dark-skinned Jewish guy. He probably looked like Rafi from The League.
He was a dark-skinned Jewish guy who insulted a lot of Jewish people a lot, though.
No, I mean Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah, he did insult a lot of Jewish people.
Yeah, they're like, well, no, we don't believe. You're that guy's son? That sounds like bullshit. Which honestly is what I would have said too. I'm like, I don't know. You might have all those hookers with you, but that sounds like a pretty far-fetched tale to me.
But let's think about it. You're chilling with his crew, 12 deep, right? He's bringing the hookers over. He's like, yo, you want some wine? I could just make some right quick. Unlimited fish and bread.
And I maced into this table, by the way.
Yeah. And, I could go walk over that water as a party trick when you're drunk.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably like suffer the fact that he had this terrible lie about being God's son to like see all that other shit. Right?
He's like, yeah, I can't
you have that friend that's like totally full of shit.
I don't want to get kicked out
Jones Jr. Everyone knows he's terrible, but they're like, but I get all this cool shit.
Well, yeah, you're like, he has these stories, and you just like the stories are entertaining, but you know they're bullshit.
He's like, let me tell you about this 40 days I just had. And you're like, I don't know. I think you were probably just in rehab. But yeah. Okay.
But yeah, you roll with him because he's a cool guy. It's a good time at parties.
Yeah.
So after we just insulted your religion, probably
for like 10 solid minutes.
But thanks for listening, guys. I would say you should email us at firstoftheworst@gmail.com if you have any requests or anything to say to make fun of us, or if you just want to yell at us for insulting your religion.
Oh God, the best thing that would ever happen to this podcast is if it got picked up. Is like, these guys are atheist Christ haters. We get like so many more listens.
Yeah, you can comment on our Facebook page, like our Facebook page, subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher, write a comment on iTunes. It'd be totally awesome, and give us a review. You can follow us at First of the Worst on Twitter or whatever you want to do. We'd love to interact with you and all that. I have one other thing to point out. So in a few weeks, we are going to do a sports themed podcast, which we don't do often. It'll be an NFL one, but we're going to do it a little different. We're going to make a bunch of little lists. So if you have any ideas or requests for like a weird thing about NFL football that you'd like us to list and make fun of, shoot us a message and we'll see if we can work it in.
Yes. And
it'll be not too serious NFL podcast.
No, it'll be kind of like this, where we'll have those lists as the outline of what we're going to do, but we'll probably just not talk with the list that much.
Yeah. So yeah, if you got any weird things you want us, you think would be funny for us to talk about the NFL, which is a terrible organization, which is why it fits into this, even though I love watching football all the time. It's run by one of the worst people in the world. I mean, yeah, I'll have enough to talk about on that podcast. But yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening, and we will check back in with you next week.
All right, man. Later.
All right, bye.